Welcome. On this channel, I do unscripted, unedited videos about Linux programming and stuff. If you're new here, it's probably best to have checked out the video number 1, which is an intro to the channel, and video number 23, which is a little bit of an intro to the project that I'm working on. In this video, I am going to continue where I left off in the previous. I am writing a little bit of code to load the config for the game. I think that I clearly ran into a problem and just wasn't thinking about it right in the previous video. And I think that I'll have a pretty straightforward, I think I understand what I was doing wrong. I'll find out. If not, that's what we'll be debugging. So I need to go into the Space Captain project and open up Space Captain C. This is where main is at. And what I was doing here is I don't even need to pass anything here, right? Because the config, let me do that differently. Source config C. And the reason I say that is because I can have a config pointer, literally that CFG equals malloc size of config, then start to load the pieces of the config. Oh, I do see my problem now, right? If I didn't pass anything in, I would have to pass it out. Let's grab the header too. Source config. Okay, so we got all the parts. If I don't pass anything in, then I have to pass this allocated value out, but I want to use the consistent scheme of having a error code as the result. So I do need to pass in, is it a pointer to a pointer that I want? Out here, I just want it to be that the thing the variable that I have is just a config pointer, but it is going to have to pass the address of that config pointer, I believe, because that is what I actually want to modify. Is is what this thing points to, and I'm gonna have to just do some really dirty, real straight, just methodical debugging here, the same way I did it the last time. Now, that means to me that I believe that what I am passing through here is a pointer to a pointer, and that what I'm actually I certainly don't need to create a variable anymore, but I do think that I do need to dereference that one layer. For it to work. And I think what I'm passing here, again, is the pointer to the pointer, and I need to dereference it one layer for it to work. And does that build? On line 3.7 to config, on line 3 of of config. Expected expression before config. So we're on line 9 of Space Captain. Let me read that again. On line 5 of Space Captain, expected an expression before config. So 5. Config result. Oh, that's me again confusing the config. Where did that blow up at? Warning, passing one argument config free with incompatible types. Config free, and down here. Oh, I just talked myself through it. Okay, so let's take a look at what I just did. So we have a config pointer, right? So it's let's take a look at this. So printf. Actually, let's see if we can. I want to see if I can do it with GDB. So I do have a GDB target, and it is I want to see if I have a key binding in. I do. D is bound. So in theory, D is bound to debug, which, okay, so build will build the debug target. What I need debug then to do is to be a phony target that depends on debug that just runs GDB. So I don't want that. That's not even right. It just needs to run the command. Okay. So let's break on source Space Captain line 4. So and then run. And if I print CFG, it's a null pointer. Now, if I next and now print CFG, right, it's a pointer to some address. And if I print CFG path, it is actually the content, right? So in line 2, I create a pointer. I pass, let's, okay, we got the make fix there. I don't need that anymore. I create a pointer. I pass the address of that pointer into load config. I use I dereference this by 1. So I'm no longer referring to the address of the pointer, but to the pointer itself. And that's normally what you do, is you let malloc assign to a pointer. Then here, when I'm referencing it, of course, I have to dereference it, the pointer to the pointer, by 1. And so I could clean this up a little bit to make it readable, and I could do something like a config right, dereference it by 1. Nah, I don't see any advantage in doing that. I think that this is just ends up being more clear. So pass in the pointer to the pointer, only use the pointer, use the pointer. But I'm going to continue to do this. It's just clearer in my head. And same here. So if I clean this, if I build this, if I run this, everything works as intended. And potentially this would make a really, really short video. No, we'll move on to the next piece. So let's close all of that. I forgot to commit at the end of the last video. I'll do it here. It's now working. This video is, I believe it is 28. So, so in there, what I did was finish low config and what was I doing? I was doing okay. I think I was doing annotated ones on the other ones, but that's fine. Okay, that leaves us in a clean position to move on. So if I go look at the So if I look at the nodes file, what I was doing here, is I'm just kind of walking through the process of how the application starts up. So the first thing it's going to do, obviously it starts, read environment variables and set up the config. Now it's going to set up the state, start reading the wall, catch the one wall, 1L wall, and then enter the main loop. So what this looks like is we need to read state. Again, I think what we're going to end up with is touch source state.h, touch source state.c, sim source state. So inside of source is space captain. Okay, so what we're doing right now, I didn't really finish the previous, but let's actually do this. Space config. I wasn't handling the malloc, so man malloc returns to the elect memory. The malloc function allocates size bytes. The memory is not initialized. If the size is 0, it returns a unique pointer that can later be freed. The call to calla return value. That's what I want. So on error, the requested size or less. I don't know why this is blanking on me. So what they're saying is if null. The return value, blah, 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 returns a pointer to allocated memory which is suitable. Blah, blah, blah. On error, these functions return null. That was all I needed, and I missed it. I thought it was that, and okay. So what we need here is if that is null, return config error. That sounds good, except for that we haven't defined the config error yet. Source config h. So now we've defined config error. We can actually return config error. Nothing to free because that's already done. I mean, that nothing was allocated. What we want now, though, is a method. Config. Okay, so it's going to be a void config error or error string. No. Config result to string. And it's going to take a config result value. Called result, a character buffer, and a size. Perfect. Let's close this side. But why do I need to do that when we know that these are going to be constant? Are they going to be constant values? I don't know that they'll be constant values in the future, and I'll fix that when that time comes. So what we're going to do is okay, I don't want to have to change the signature of the function in the future. If I do this and then the error message becomes variable size, it works. If I just return a pointer to a string, I can't deal with variable size messages. So we'll make it deal with variable size. Variable size messages. That is a bunch of overhead that I don't want to deal with. So for the time being, we're returning a character pointer. And if we need to in the future, we'll change this. And so all I need right now is a function that more or less looks like this. Oh, here it's writing me the other version, the one that comes with does make it easy when Copilot writes it for you. Okay, so let's think about this. So far we have success error and success config error and config success and error. It's nice of it. Gives us an unknown. I don't ever want to use it, but what the heck. I am not even putting that in there. That is just such a horrible idea. What is the best way to just terminate with an error? probably fdebug or whatever that, see error handling in the, that wasn't what it was, F error. That's what it's, right? No, not C error, F error. That's not at all what I was thinking of. I thought there was literally a function in the, you know, in the standard libraries for just that purpose, for what is abort? What is abort? Exit. Abort function first unblocks the SIG abort signal, then raises the signal for the calling process. This results in an abnormal termination of the process. Abort function never returns. So, so C programming, abort versus exit. The difference between exit and abort is exit allows the C runtime termination to take place. Abort terminates the program immediately. Okay, so we really should just use exit, because there's not like, I mean, I don't know that in C that there's anything happening here. We're never going to have an unknown. So we just exit with failure right there. But what I want to do is I want to put some message to standard error. How to print standard error and C with printf. That's not really the issue. I was hoping somebody had mentioned I could have swore there's already a P error. No? Let's go over here. Man, P error. What is it? For more systems. So it's just a print error. Looks like a, it's not a standard library thing. Unknown config. Unknown config result value. %d terminate. I like that. So I don't like that I just closed that. So I like what's going on there, though, right? If we actually did have a value that we hadn't set up a case for, I mean, because that's exactly what would happen, right? Sort bien. What would happen would be, let's say I come along and I put a enum in here, but I forget to write its string in here. What would happen is we would fall through the result, and it's going to just crash the program and say, hey, by the way, and so this is one of those things that in the tests I should verify that every enum value actually is processed. We exit with failure. We never return. No reason to break on that one. I can build that, but on line 16 of main, and main happens to be in space captain. Line 16. What was going on there? Configure, it wasn't, so main C16 expected before configure. In config H, what the heck? Oh, that was just the, so I wish that, I see what's going on. That's telling me where it was concluded. Anyway, it's line 3 of config.h. So config.h, line 3. Do these need commas? Is that what it's telling me? That probably doesn't work, does it? Config H, line 12, unknown type, config result 12. Config result. Passing one argument to printf from incompatible pointer type. Unknown config result value. It is fprintf that I want to use. There we go. Okay, so this was just a bit of cleanup. Let's get rid of that. What we've done is, if there's an error, we return early with the error. That's it, really, right? Space. Okay, what we've done here is failed to load configuration. But what we really want to do now is we have something better. We can call, we can run printf, no, hold it. Yeah, printf, fprintf. Copilot. fprintf, standard error. We're going to fetch config result. I think what I'm going to do is config print result is what we're going to name it. What's the actual type? The type is print config result. Everything is prefixed with config, and the name of the method is print config result. We're going to pass result. I'm going to be lazy right now, and I'm going to say config. I'm just going to say error. Let's do it this way. So lots of space for an error message. going to pass okay, and then the parameters that takes is the result value, error message, and size of error message. Passing to makes a pointer, so start at the top. On line 7, implicit declaration of function config print, config, oh yeah, so I changed the names of stuff. Config print config result, and then config print config result. There we go. And let's have just kind of a brute force test. Let's have it let's just have it print config error, return config error. Config error, failed to load configuration, and then stuff. And so the exact error that we're getting here, so config error we can use as it lets you format. Okay, so I'm still I still have further to go here, right? So the idea behind the SNPrintf is it's going to allow you to pass a format string. So what it would look like then. What I want to do is have, can I do this? So interesting. I can create an oversized buffer that contains the thing, and now if I were to right, if I make this return, so let's just always return right, no matter what, config error. And of course, because we exited early, I mean, we actually did allocate it, and so I guess, right, if I didn't allocate it, that would be fine. But the error leak, A, wouldn't matter if we were crashing, and B, if I was unable to allocate the memory, we wouldn't have errored for leaking it. So that is as expected. I think I'm going to, oops, had the cap lock stuck there for a second. So this is in, so I could, I'm a little undecided about what I want this API to look like, right? I guess I should always make these so that they can have a variable length buffer going in, but that's a lot of messing around with stuff when you're in the middle of crashing from an error. Although, you know, if I just always had a so if I convert error message to just be error message, I mean, if I always just had an error message buffer laying around, that was convenient to use, or do I end up creating some kind of context that is holding, can I, how do I want to do this? So what happens if I always have this buffer laying around? Right? And what I would do then is I'm not liking that. What I'm just thinking just now, what I paused for, is I was thinking, well, what happens if what I'm actually returning here in the config what if the config had the error buffer in it, and then anytime I wanted to format messages, I don't like that either. It is a lot. What if the oh yeah, I'm not even using this in the way that the signature is here, right? Why not just return a constant string that is unformatable and have it simpler? So in other words, why not just return, so I wouldn't, the only thing I would pass in is the error code, and the only thing I pass out is a non just a string. So if somebody calls this one, we would return config success, and if somebody calls this one, we return config error, just giving the values. And in this one, it just becomes unknown config result. It's just literally that simple. This code, all of the other stuff was just monkeying around for when I'm in the middle of erroring out. I don't know that until it proves out to me that I need that much information, I'm not going to have it. So so we have print config result. It returns one of these values. I never have to allocate anything here. Instead, when I've errored, I can simply say fprintf standard error. Let's use the name of the function, which is load failed to load config %s that, and what we are going to call is config print config result. Right. So on line 14 of config, vsplit e source config 14. See that again. Actually, line 1. What's going on? Config rsult somewhere. rsult split e source config h rsult right there. Config result. What am I missing? That's main. Okay, what am I missing? Main C light. Okay, so config.c in the function config print config result error expected equals comma blah 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 blah. Okay. Config print. Okay, I'm going to change this to config print config result to just print config result. That did not do what I wanted. Config print config result. I just want to be print config result. That's not even a good name for it. I want it to just return I just want it to return a string. So I'm just going to call it config result string. And If I just define constant character pointer, and I have an array of strings, and these match those, then this just becomes kind of a null op, because I can just say I don't need this function anymore. I could simply say oops. Right? So in this case, if I have an error, I simply just print the error string. The errors are the error strings exist in the header file. Seems like all I need. So that here, I don't need to define that function. That builds. That runs, but I wanted to source config C. Okay, so let's return an error. Failed to load config error, blah, blah, blah. It's not quite right. Oh yeah, it's just missing the line feed. Source, config, header. So we want each of these to, and I won't put that there, I'll put it here. Right. So we had an error, failed to load the config. How do I want to do this? Error. Error. Config error. Let's do this. Config error. %s colon %s. Sorry for not talking. Just realized that I wasn't. trying to decide what I want these error messages to look like. I think what I want to do for now is just be really simple. I am just going to return. I'll figure out a strategy that I want to use, but what I'm going to do for now is this is what I would like, I think. In which case, I would have to pass file and line. Format percent as it expects the argument of character, but oh, this is that's my problem. So this one should be a %D. Fail to load config so so instead of an at, let's just put a parenthesis and oops, that's not what I want to do. Let's put the parenthesis here. Config error. Failed to load config source blah 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 blah. I like that. That's nice and simple. Config error. Failed to load config. It could be instead. Just like so. And then what I would have down here I could get very, very specific, right? And that was success. And then this one was failed to load, failed to so let's just do that, and then I'm not even going to have this. And then here, error, failed to allocate memory for configuration. I'm going to treat these as sentences. If for some reason someone actually let's one more time. So what we're getting, error failed to allocate memory for configuration, and then where it happened. And maybe I want to make this look just a little different. Do I want to here or is that just my Ruby? Error, failed to allocate memory for configuration. At that place, I could go really crazy and do something like Yeah, this is fiddly dumb stuff, but my brain gets hung up on it, and it's how I'll end up leaving it. We'll just leave it just like that. No, I'm just going to get rid of the file and line part. Just leave it like I had it to start with. There we go. Space Captain line 6. So I think we have a plan, a system here. We don't want it to always be returning failure though, so here, so that is in main. We want to split, we want to open up source config, and don't always return an error. And we probably want to use a better error. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let config unknown error be the first one, and then I'm going to have malloc error, and I'm going to quit numbering these. I'm not sure. Config malloc error, and that's what we're going to return here is config malloc error. And this should behave the same. And the reason that it doesn't is because it's nice to know that it blows up in my face when I do it wrong. The reason that it doesn't is there is no entry here. And so this one should be failed to allocate memory for configuration. There we go. And so if I go look at this, we don't need to return that one. This is the check. Here's where we actually populate the config with some information. Here is where we free it and return success. And so oh. Okay, so a relatively straightforward way for me to, I could still write. I could make this work, this here, a lot easier by having a void config print error, and it would just take a config result called result, and then here I could do void config, right? And I think that we always are doing the exact same thing, which is printing this here. So result is the value passed in. And, you know, that is right. We want a file, we want a, and then what we want over here is not to call that. Instead, we would call config print error with all that info. Does that build? Conflicting type, have void. Where's the so I would need constant character pointer to file name int line. And I'm going to go to file name here and file name here. And then if we make it just return an error so we can see it. So in config, return the error. Error, failed to allocate memory for configuration on Space Captain line 6. I wonder if you can do this. You can, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to show where the error was generated. Okay, I actually am kind of happy right now. That's good enough. I know that's probably not great videos. They'll get better as I get more into writing C on a daily basis. I mean, literally, it's it's like I said in the other videos. It's been 25 or more years since I've used it, and I probably have 6 or 7 hours of use into it right now, and it's still pretty new to my brain again, so it doesn't just flow. And of course, when I start thinking hard about the code, then I'm forgetting that I'm on video and forgetting to talk about it. But I'm content. This kind of wraps up the config side of things. So program starts up, we try to load the config. If we have any error, we just print errors and exit. Otherwise, while running, we have it, and we free it when we're done. Pretty straightforward, and that pattern will get used in a number of places, I'm sure. Well, let me, make clean, good stats. So we got changes in the notes, changes, I mean, we got a lot of changes all over. Let me just look. I want to see if I got any commented out. That is pretty much all of it. So, okay, all good. Git status, git add. Where am I at? Git add. So, let's, I didn't even use those. So, but first let's move source to, stage. Not sure what I messed up there, but this will work. There's nothing in him. What's the diff in notes? Spelling correcto. Git diff source config anything. Yep. Okay, so I'll just leave the state stuff out. They're empty files anyway. So we'll commit add error So we add the error handling. Oops, what I should have done is get, so I am in video 20, get log, nope, get tag. I'm in video 28, so we want to get tag video 28. Get push, GitHub main. I want to get in the habit of pushing on the end of every video so that, I guess that's wrong, right? I should push the video, I should tag it right when I start and commit the completed work when I finish in the future. That would make the most sense. Anyway, that kind of wraps up the config stuff. I'll take a look at what was in the notes list as to what gets worked on next. I will see you in the next video.